Hello again and welcome back to part 6 of the Sunburst Mandala throw. This is the final part of the blanket. At the end of this part you should have a blanket that measures between about 49 to maybe 55 inches depending on your particular tension or if you've used a bigger hook. I'm going to start again with a slip knot onto the hook, and we're starting this part of the tutorial working the treble 3 together over 3 stitches. As always, I'm starting with a slip knot onto the hook, and we're starting over here in the corner space from the last row, which was the second row of cross stitches. In the corner on this row, it's row 43, we're going to treble 2 together, chain 1, treble 2 together. So we'll start with a standing treble into that space, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, but not the third time, and again into that same space. There's our first treble 2 together. We're going to chain 1 and do another treble 2 together, exactly the same. Into that same space there. We're now going to chain 2. We're going to do another 2 treble 2 together with a chain 1 in between. So we've got 4 treble 2 togethers all together. We're going to skip that first stitch. We're going to treble 3 together over the next 3 stitches. So we'll skip that one and work into the next one. There's 1, 2 and 3. Yarn over and pull through all the loops. Chain 2. And then we go straight into the next stitch. We're going to work another treble 3 together over these next 3 stitches. Chain 2. We're going to just carry on all the way along, working treble 3 together over 3 stitches until we get to the corner. So if you want to pause the video at this point and work your treble 3 togethers, and I'll meet you when we get to the end. When we reach the end of this first side, we'll have 1/2 of the cross stitch and then the 2 stitches that formed the corner, and we're going to do that last treble 3 together over those 3 stitches. There's 1 and 2 and the last one. Yarn over, pull through all the loops, chain 2, and then we're going to do the same as we did in the first corner, working into this chain space here. We're going to work the 2 treble 2 together with the chain 1 in between. So there's 1, chain 1, there we've got the second one. Going to chain 2, that's going to form the corner stitch, and work another 2 treble 2 together with a chain 1 in between. There's 1, chain 1, and the final treble 2 together in that corner space. So we've got 4 treble 2 together in the corner. Then again we're going to skip that first stitch. We're just going to do the same as we did along the first side, working a treble 3 together over the 3 stitches, and then, oh sorry, just go back there. After the 4 in the corner, I'm going to work a chain 1, and then work the 3 trebles that we're going to work together to make a treble 3 together, chain 2, and then just work all the way along to the next corner where we're going to do the 4 treble 2 together with the chains in between. So again, if you want to pause the video at this point, and I'll meet you when we get to the end of the row, we're just going to join, as always, into that first stitch with a slip stitch, and then you can fasten off the yarn. And we're now ready to start our next row, which is row 45. We're going to start again in the corner, so it's the 2 chain space where we had the treble 2 together. We've got 1 space in between the first 2, and we're working into this 2 chain space here. We're going to work 2 doubles, a chain 1 and 2 doubles into that space. So in the corner, 2 doubles, 1 chain and 2 doubles. We're going to do a front post double around the next stitch, and that's the double 2 together. We're going to do a double in the chain between the 2 stitches here, and then another front post double in the next, around the next stitch. So we've got the 2 doubles with a chain 1 in between. We've now worked 3 of the front post doubles. We're now going to work 2 doubles into the space between that last treble 2 together. We're going to work 2 doubles into each of the spaces along this row, and a front post double around the top of each of the treble 3 together. So I've worked the 2 doubles there. I'm now going to work a front post double around that next stitch into the space, work 2 doubles, and then a front post double around the top of the treble 3 together. So if you want to carry on along the row, 2 doubles in the chain space, 1 front post double around each of the treble 3 together. When we've worked the last front post double around the last of the 3 treble together over the 3 stitches, we're just going to do 1 double into the space. We're going to work a front post double around the treble 3 together. We're going to do 1 double into the next space, and then we're going to do a front post double around the first stitch of the corner there. We then work the corner as we did at the start of this round. We work 2 doubles, chain 1 and 2 doubles into that chain space, and then a front post double around the next stitch, 1 double into the chain space, a front post double around the next stitch, 1 double into the chain space, and then we start the pattern repeat where we do a front post double around the 3 treble together, and then we're going to work 2 doubles into the chain space, 1 double, a front post double around the top of the 3 trebles, and 2 doubles into the next 2 chain space. And we're just going to carry on as we did along the first side, just repeating the pattern here of a front post double followed by 2 doubles into the chain space. So if you want to pause the video again at this point and work all 4 sides exactly the same, and then we're going to join into the first stitch with a slip stitch and fasten off, and I'll meet you when we get to the end there and we can start our next row. And ready to start our next row, which is row 46. We're going to start in the corner space again where we've got the chain 1. We're going to start with 2 doubles, a chain 1, and 2 doubles. We're going to skip 3 stitches, so it's the first hidden stitch there and the next 2, and we're going to work a V-stitch into the next stitch. We now skip 2 stitches and work a V into the next stitch. So the V-stitch is going to sit on this one into the top of this stitch here. We're going to skip 2 stitches and work a V into the next. So we just carry on all the way along working the V stitches. We only skip the 3 stitches at the beginning of the row, and then we just skip 2 in between each V that we work. So skip 2, work a V, skip 2, work a V, and we're just going to work that all the way along this row, and we've got the 2 doubles, chain 1 and 2 doubles in the corner stitches. So I'll let you again pause the video at this point so that you can work your row of V stitches, and I'll meet you when we get to the end. So we've come to the end of the row. We've got 3 stitches left. We're going to do the final V into the very last stitch of this side. Chain 1 and a double to form the V, straight into the corner space there, and work the 2 doubles, chain 1 and 2 doubles. We're going to then skip the hidden first stitch and 2 stitches and work the next V into that next stitch there, skip 2 stitches and work the V. So again we're going to just do the same all the way along, skipping 2, work a V stitch, skip 2 and work a V stitch until we get to the end. The final V of the side is in the very last stitch, and then we just go straight into the corner and work the 2 doubles, chain 1 and 2 doubles. So if you want to carry on and work this round, you can pause the video at this point and I'll meet you when we get to the end of this row. On to our next round, which is round 47. We're going to start in the chain space between the 2 sets of 2 double crochet together. We're going to work a double crochet 2 together, chain 1, another double crochet 2 together in that same space there, chain 1, double crochet 2 together a 3rd time, chain 1 and another double crochet 2 together, all into that same space there. So we've got 4 double crochet 2 together, each with a chain 1 in between. We're now going to come straight across to this first V-stitch here, and we're going to work a single crochet into that stitch, and then into the next V we're going to work 7 doubles to form our 7 double crochet shell. 3 and 4, 5, 6 and 7. Then we're going to go straight over onto the next V and work a single and a shell into the next V-stitch, and just carry on working that same pattern, repeat along to the end. Single. We've got the last shell into the last V, and there's the 7th stitch of that last shell, and then the final single that we work is going to be into the very last stitch of the side, which is part of the corner from the previous row. So then into that corner stitch we do the corner, which again was 4 sets of double 2 together with a chain 1 in between. So there's 2, 3 and the 4th one into that corner space, then straight into the first V of the next side and work the single, and then into the next V we're going to work the 7 double crochet shell. And then a single into the next one, and so on all the way along this side, not forgetting that the very last single is going to go in the final double of the side, and then we do the 4 double crochet 2 togethers with the chain in between into the corner, and then down onto the next side where we just do the pattern repeat of the single in the first V, a shell in the next V, a single in the next V, and a shell into the next one, and so on until we've worked all the way around. And again we just slip stitch into that first stitch and fasten off the yarn. To start our next row, Again, we're going to start in the corner space, which is in between the first two of the double two together. We've got 4 all together, so in between the second and the third, we're going to start with a standing single. We're going to work 2 chain, and then we're going to do a single into that same chain space there. So we've got 1 single, 2 chains and 1 single. We're going to do a front post single around the first stitch there. We're going to do a single in the chain space, which is that one there, and we're going to do a front post single around that second double two together there that formed the corner. We're now going to skip the next stitch, which is the single. We're going to work a back post single around each of the 7 doubles of the shell. We've got 4, 5, 6 and the 7th double of that first shell. We're going to skip the next stitch, which is the single that sat between the shells. We're going to go straight across into that next shell and work a back post single around each of the doubles of this next shell. I'm going to carry on with that same pattern repeat all across this row to the end, skipping the single that sits between the 2 shells, and then a back post single around each of the 7 doubles that form the shell, and I'll meet you when we get to the end of this row. When we've done the last set of back post singles around that final shell, we come to the corner where we've got the double two togethers. We're going to do a front post single around the first stitch, a single in the chain space, a front post single around the second stitch, and then into the corner we're going to do 1 single, 2 chain and another single. We'll go straight on to the next stitch, which is a front post single around that first double two together, a single in the chain space and a front post single around that last stitch that formed the corner. We're going to skip this first single here and go back to the pattern repeat, which is a single around each of the doubles that formed the shell. And then again skip the single and move straight across to the next shell where we're going to work the 7 back post singles. And that just forms the pattern repeat there for the next side, that we're going to work a back post single around each of the doubles that form the shell, skipping the single that lies in between the 2 shells, and in the corners we've got the front post single, a front post single, and then in the actual corner space we've got a single, chain 2 and a single, and then we do the front posts with the single in between on those last two of the corner group here. So I'll let you pause the video again and work all four sides exactly the same, and I'll meet you when we get to the start of the next row. At the end of this one, as always, just slip stitch into the final stitch, fasten off and snip off the yarn. And on to row 49. In the 2 chain space here in the corner, we're going to work 2 V-stitches. So we start with a standing double for the first half of the V, chain 1 and another double into that same space to form the first V, chain 1, and we're going to work a second V into that same chain space. We've now got 3 front post doubles. We're going to work those around the first front post single, we're going to work 1 around the single that we did between those stitches, and the third one goes around the front post single from the previous row. We're now going to work a V-stitch into the single that we skipped from the row where we had the shells. So into that stitch we're going to work a V. We're now going to work 3 doubles. Sorry, my mistake there. We're going to work 3 singles, and we're going to skip the first 2 stitches of the back post singles that were in the shell. We're going to work a single into each of those 3 middle stitches there, and then we're going to go into the next skipped single from the shell row. We're going to work a V-stitch into that next stitch there. So we're just going to carry on all the way along, working the 3 singles into the middle 3 back post singles of the shells. We're going to work a V into each of the V stitches. So if you want to pause the video at this point and work to the end of this side, just following that same pattern repeat of 3 singles and then the V-stitch, and then the 3 singles again into the middle 3 stitches of the shell. So we skip the first 2 back post singles, work 3 singles, then skip the final 2 back post singles and work a V into the next single, and I'll meet you when we get to the end of this side. When we get to the final V in the last skipped single, we're now going to work the 3 front post doubles. The first one will go around the front post single, the second one will go around the single, and the third one will go around the last front post single. We're going to then work the 2 V-stitches with a chain 1 in between into the corner, and then we're ready to start the next side. We're going to work a front post double around that first front post single, a second front post double around the single, and the third one goes around the front post single from the previous row. We then straight into the V-stitch in the skipped single, skip 2 stitches and work the 3 singles into the middle 3 stitches of the shell, and then over onto the next V-stitch in the skipped single. So all 4 sides are exactly the same. If you want to again pause the video and work your 4 sides, and I'll meet you at the start of the next row. And now on to our penultimate row. We're going to start in the space between the 2 V's of the corner. We're going to work a double 2 together, a chain 1 and a second double 2 together in that chain space that sits between the 2 V's. We're going to double 2 together into the next V, chain 1, and then we're going to work 3 front post doubles around the 3 front post doubles that we've got here. We've got 1, 2 and 3. We're now going to work a 3 double crochet cluster into the next V, which is here. So 1, 2 and 3, yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. We're now going to work a chain 1, and then we're going to back post double around the 3 singles. There's 1, 2 and 3. So this now forms the pattern repeat. We're at the next V where we're going to do a 3 double crochet cluster, chain 1, and then we're going to go into the 3 singles between the V stitches. We're going to work a back post double into each of those 3 stitches, and then again into the double into the V stitch we're going to do a 3 double crochet cluster. So we're just going to carry on working that same pattern repeat along this side, and I'll meet you when we get to the corner. Coming up to this next corner, I'm working the 3 back post doubles around the last 3 back post singles. I'm going to do the cluster into the V stitch, chain 1. We're going to skip the second half of the V there. We're going to work 3 front post doubles around the 3 front post doubles from the previous row. We've now got the 2 V's of the corner there. We're going to do a double 2 together into that first V, chain 1, and then we're going to do a 2 double crochet together into the corner space, chain 1 and another double 2 together into that stitch, chain 1. We're going to do a double 2 together as we did on the start of the first side, chain 1, and then we're going to skip the second half of that V, and we're going to work a front post double around each of the front post doubles from the last row. And now we start with the pattern repeat for the side. So we've got a 3 double crochet cluster into the V-stitch, and then we're going to work 3 back post doubles over the 3 the 3 singles from the previous row, and then we're back again to the V-stitch for the next 3 treble cluster, and then work the 3 back post doubles around the 3 singles, and then back to the start of the pattern repeat with the cluster in the V followed by the 3 back post doubles, and I'll meet you when we get to the end of this row. And now we're going to work the final row of this blanket. I'm going to do my final row using treble 3 together. If you would rather do double 2 together, it would work out fine. Some people prefer to do doubles than trebles, but I do think it gives a nicer finish to the blanket if the final shells are done using trebles, but definitely feel free to use double 2 together if you would rather. So we're going to start in a corner, any of the corners. I'm going to start with a standing treble 2 together. Oops, I've done a full treble there. Just redo that one. Pull that tight. With a chain 1, I'm going to do another 5 treble 2 together in this same space. If you're doing the double 2 together, you will do exactly the same amount. You'll have 6 double 2 togethers or 6 treble 2 together in this corner space. I've got 4. You might have to push the stitches around a little bit. And the final one. So we've got 6 of the treble 2 together in the corner. We're going to do a front post single around the cluster stitch that's here in the first V. That's after the double 2 together of the corner stitch. So we do a single front post single around that cluster stitch, and then in the middle stitch of these 3 front post doubles here, we're going to work a shell which is 4 treble 2 together. So there's 1, a chain 1 in between, there's 2, chain 1, three, chain 1, and a final treble 2 together in that stitch, and chain 1 to finish. We then skip the next front post double. We're going to do a front post single again around the next cluster, and now we start with the pattern repeat. We're going to do a 4 treble 2 together shell into this middle stitch here of the 3 back post doubles. There's 1, chain 1, and 2, chain 1, 3, chain 1, and a 4th into that same stitch. We're just going to work all the way along. The next stitch will be the front post single around the cluster, followed by the 4 treble 2 together with the chains in between in the center stitch of the 3 doubles that we've got here. So if you want to carry on along the side, and I'll meet you when we get to the corner. So I've worked all the way along to the next corner. I've done the last shell with the treble 2 together, chain 1, so that we've got the 4 sets of treble 2 together. We do the last back post single around this double 2 together here, and then we're going to go into the corner where we're going to work the 6 treble 2 together. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the final one is 6 in the corner space there with the chain 1 to fasten off. We then skip the other side of the corner there. We do a single front post single around that next double 2 together. We're now going to work in the center stitch of the 3 front post doubles, and we're going to work 4 treble 2 together. There's 1 with a chain 1, and 2, chain 1, 3, chain 1, and the 4th one. Chain 1 to fasten off, and then we do the front post single around the cluster. We're going to then move on to this next middle double. These are the back post doubles from the previous row, where again we're going to do the 4 treble 2 together with a chain 1 in between. I've just worked my last front post single around the final double 2 together there, and I'm going to join into the first stitch with a slip stitch, snip off the yarn and fasten off. And here is the blanket totally finished. I do hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I'd like to thank you for supporting me in this blanket. I hope you will subscribe and like the videos, and I hope to see you all again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.